past writer on the horizon, I guess. Gather round, hear about it.
Episode 6, Down to Clumpocalypse. Endorphin, creative director. Shit. Just got word from Caesar's palace. It begins. Professor Goonsucker. Sweet immaculate cunt. That's faster than any of the models projected. How far are we into the process? The pies. The toots. The balloons. Endorphin. It better be the 7 podcasts of the top 7 comedians where they speak each word once forbidden on TV. Cause what the fuck did we spend millions on an alert system that doesn't fucking burn when the BLR exons need burning? Professor Cuddlebum. But Professor, you forgot to activate the tame bots to do some damage control for these humans we want to save. Now, they've completely clogged the city. It's all fumble for towpokes. Q, I Captain Quella here. How can you call it a sense or Grimtopia if you get complaints for the taste of our little squishy boys? New and my litless creatures are so precious and naughty I always just try to sing along to Happy Newbie Neebs, but they have no timing with anything else but slappy wackums and schmuta zoo. Sorry. White gobbly bobbity bug. Oops. I sneeze on your back. Okay. On purpose, silly bumbly cubblehock. Let's pretend that never happened. See you and clean again with a pat of puddle skin gooch. I'm a muntle bunnerly and your little slapping tongue gets me oak. Come lick la bellet on clamapple mushy. Rob Zingberry, social engineering. But still, it didn't reach the endgame or the sport tactically trained squad. Good now. I always have to carry their stuff and bring their little trinkety boo-boos to the front office, only to snuckle bloods no. But wait, someone activated the complaints. If they soar down upon us, we'll be living in a new, shiny, blingna dimlobe mode. My nerves will just spit sugalibs to the heart and stay away forever. Oh God, I want to be ready. It's too tight. Clenching grats. It won't fit. Time to flee now, but you're dumb clunjagobble, so stay here, while I gallop along like a whoopsie wagonage. Oh, my little boo-boo belba-bollable bunker. It's hide and zigzagging goblin or sandus come back to bite. Boom. Bingo. Bugga-wobble be Jupiter's chin wismo on a wick. Everyone looks at Tinny Minkle in expectation. Well, according to our internal systems, we've reached the end of episode 6. Why are you laughing at me? Hey! Wow, okay. So we can definitely brain a bit for the rest. Then I'm sorry. Am I stuck with a big bunch cake that's coming my way? No need to mention me by name. I'm here, already caught with the doozy and ready for trouble to jello on down and drown my crumpum pedestals in your nicey smile. Hey, Paslazoon. You go on the Tudibus and I'll follow, but not really. Can't pull myself together enough. Just pepper mussy floodies. Please help me. Find the end of this Shringaberg's like to booming him. Oh, what's this? Sherry Lou is on a pale white horse. And Lamb Chop riding a puppet version of the same. Holy shit! How is she going to throw the 7 pies? And behold! Each is wearing a miniature pink tutu with twinkle sprombers and their tiny hands grasping furiously in a futile attempt to throw the other. Boy, geez, Lidoddler. Can I call one? Lou Ripperlipitsy. Have we reached the end of our conversation yet? Please, tiny toggly bunjaloo ball. Pace the pants on. We need more splotch buggle skudrubufumbly wallowy mooshka blinowing in our lives. Sparky. Network Broadcast Coordinator. Huh? Wow, you guys sure are a chatty bunch. Am I missing something? You didn't hear the screech from Nangle Langley? Well, in either case, it's my cue to ride up in this shining blue dangling buckwheat and check that everything's all copacetically hunted for. And then the 7 spaghetti Missouri tubes full of pooterpaws and winkyballs and sparkliverners and splissplusses. And then, come here, little Bob Lovely, put yourself in one of my baskets. And now, jump high manute into a basket and doodle a bunk with Bob's Nicklooies and squeeze the whole lot of you into another little bowler bumlet. Can you manage that without doing or saying anything funny to make this worse or turn it into a warble bleeder fussbot? Let's lollipops, lapay, and chingle hands in bliss and wonder booted like bunny bottomies. Always chasing the rainbow we can never reach. Always laughing and forgetting that this is not how it is, but just how it is. Floating without a thought or doubt. Just our faces lighting up the night sky like dancing balls of missile. No, not missile. This isn't Christmas. Sillybilly hoy hooflots. Don't be sillybillies now. But you shouldn't be running or gurgling or crying with worry. With our stankling staffridge fox or mouses. CPS rings the doorbell. CPS, hi. We heard some questionable syllables that triggered our splatter spooter shot listening devices. So I've been tasked to embed with your school. I'm here for good. She's stuffed by La Flautavia. Professor groans loudly. How is this happening? Endorphin. That's right, Prof. You walked into the trap that the stolen identity, a small clan of criminals, and the wormswipe Wabi, a notorious pooper sculpture, have been silently planning over the past several months. You've really been had, and it was a beautiful trick. Hey kids, is this some kind of modern twist on Hansel and Gretel? Leave us a trail of chocolate chips or dirty clothes or farpots or melted milkshakes, whatever you can find, to signal the way back out. Now that you've guided us through this absurd and obnoxious story, it's time to return to the real world and do the same for ourselves. Come on, people. I hear that snickerwoggle and lumplicious face. Help each other show me your best cooperation with everyone. Start by tossing me your t-shirts, little tits. Will you?
Hi, CPS.
Episode 7. The Trial of Professor Goonsucker. Bettina Brevin Bigolicious looked on in shock as a series of dirty, unfounded accusations flew out of the witness's mouth like spitballs at a watermelon party. How dare they implicate Professor Jellybean Grasper, president of Smooshafudia College, as a crook and a liar? Of course, there had been whispers of bribes and embezzlement. No, not from his friends or colleagues, but from some troublemakers in the city, open to undermine the professor's influence and embarrass him publicly, for it was well known that he loved and championed bright, young scholarship students with dreams of changing the world for the better. He had been supportive of the Wentkatigoobling Club, the Marilys Cornby Reading Group, and even provided funding for Gupodo program. That was no crime. Show me evidence that my name is being smeared in this mockery of justice. Judge Patutini. Oh my, was this a farce? I thought it was a shenanigan. Jesus Lobalopsa. Bring on the Pooner balls and let's kick him out before he kills himself, the prosecutor pleaded. With everyone left laughing uncontrollably at the witness's testimony, Professor Balbaba Kranodikiwek stepped up to defend the disgraced man. Using his sharp skills in ridicule and skepticism, he turned the case completely around until the student/witness started melting into a puddle of gutter slime. Then the jury got back, wobbling in a different direction. They awarded Professor Goonsucker $2 billion in compensation and had the student placed in intensive psychological therapy. With cheers and boos and blippy hoops heard in the distance, Professor Balbuba gave his speech on the Supreme Court building steps. This is one step for Wombabies everywhere, and one spy soup for you and you and you. Congratulations to our amazing team of quiff, curtsies, and Chamaron pockets, bringing forth the gootniest victory since the blunderous twins did their split and set fire to the Justice Center. I guess they forgot one poop? Let's count again just to be sure. By Poderplex, He was sent to the island of exile with no food, water, or access to his books or research notes. All because he taught how to build better and run bitter and fill rooms with more love and hope and cheer. It was his pleasure, and he had no qualms with anyone or anything. Judge Pejutini, what's the difference between a day of court and a day of domestic violence? Give up. Billable hours. Inaudible shouts and bangs from the distance. And Thor Binksar, defense attorney. Jestworld Juliches, it's time to let it go. I apologize for accusing you of manipulating evidence against you. Gamut Sipip, this is a terrible, sad, horrible song. Please sing something else. If you're going to make me listen to this cathartic ballad, don't make it one where I'm supposed to empathize with the murder. Yinster Yangster has a rough, malicious fuddle feet with Riddle Boy. Could you give me a few tips for a better dance for a saddle fling? And how to express myself in Bimple Bingu? And most importantly, is it a problem to forget things at will? Or to purposefully misremember or distract myself whenever I feel too hurt or overwhelmed by the truth? It's all too much. Sleep, Violet, and Sloomba Boom Boom Busta Boss are slowly consuming me from the inside. What to do, what to say, when everything is jiggling back and making me want to cry, like a bird flying to her Gromby Dango Gonzola. There are many who would argue that our planet is dying, but only one or two will actually believe it. Nuberman, can we slow down just a little bit? We're doing too much for some and not enough for others. Let's all have some fun. Jump! Yinster Yanster has a beef with Riddle Boy, and they have it out in a series of diss tracks. Shaboinka Squark, Dingle Yakata Bobble Hubble Mogulus Pukuttle Broctoreki, Mondoloinky, Squat Chucklet Gokko Katuklet, Chance Attach Bench. And that's where it gets split piffle pace. Yo, Brockus Tootsie Poops of the two zers. Becoming one with your inner sporklut is not recommended unless you're trying to grow yourself into something ugly and unpleasant. Otherwise, keep smiling and spreading peace and keep the inner darkness at bay. You never know, it may lead to a breakthrough or two. Even our superheroes can use a pat on the back and some kindness every now and again. He knows how to handle things. He has a light in his eyes and a love in his heart, but his confidence, like us, is not infallible. Don't forget to reach out and remind yourself that you are not alone, nor should you feel like you are less than anyone else. This world we live in can be harsh and unforgiving, but there's always a place for us to find comfort in each other. In the end, it is the connections we make, the trust we create, and the power we seek to lift each other up and create a better world for all of us that make life worth living. Just don't forget to take care of yourself and be mindful of your surroundings, lest you slip or fall or fade away. We are with you, we are watching, and we are here to help. Riddle Boy responds, Oh, bully bumpin' liquor to boobly, and look at your big, shiny face. Your binkibulus as it should have been left with a mother cooch kabobber blue to kitty. But here you are, snarkling and popping like a giant bubble in the sky. Am I missing something? I know what I see and hear, so no, your joke isn't funny at all. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't play along with weak, cold, cheeky chicks. One day you may even realize that your little humor blunder makes me smile. But for now, all you've done is prove that you're not as cool or funny or smart as you think you are. Leave it alone. Please, for I don't care to listen to your insults or admonishments or whatever this nonsense is that you call jokes. No, really, I'm good. I don't need anyone to tell me who I am or what I should be. Your opinion of me means nothing, so please, continue to sputter and sizzle as long as you like. I'll still be here, waiting for real conversation, instead of this meaningless one-sided drivel. Plus, I'm much stronger than I look, so you can leave now. Foo-foonal flamkadorful, go boop the bridge. Why not try someone else's crown? You ugly, pastel-faced knout. Yingster Yanster responds within the hour. Hey, so are you a licensed comedian? 'Cause I can definitely see why you don't have a stand-up career or any following of fans. My wit is legendary, but yours is just dead and rotting in a gutter, blowing in the wind with maggots chewing up all your bones and spit fads. Can't even breathe with the level of slovenly shit jokes you sling around. Are you even funny at all? Or just horny for applause? Oh wait, don't bother explaining. I see now. You're just a petulant, stuck-up blip boy, but that's okay. Keep trying to ruin everything. I don't care. Life is short and glorious, with laughs and tears, so just enjoy yourself. And don't let anyone else make you feel small or silly or pointless, 'cause they're wrong.
That's my job.
To our left and right, how quickly things change. 1 minute, we are dealing with global warming and ecottage, and the next, the Lolita in a hamster ball is leading a revolt against the system. Let's take a deep breath and chill out. We've all had it rough, and it's not a race or a competition. Let's just enjoy the moment, at least until this issue is resolved or forgotten, and the battle begins anew. Sometimes we see something worth fighting for, and sometimes we don't, but at least we try, and that's what matters. Come on, now let's look at the bright side. Life is so short, and we may as well make it worthwhile. Endorphin. Hey, is this the trial of Professor Gunsucker, or am I in the wrong place? Sniffleface the sheep shagger, help me. Don't let the fat bottom boatman take my sheep. They're all I have left, and he's trying to rip them from me and slaughter them for his flock of
I'm
freaks.
trying to get them up your dick.
Scram it to let the beaver pitter up Blabson. Not again. Someone throw me a hot dog or a bone or anything to keep the hunger at bay. This is the 5th time this week, and I can't take it anymore. Battery on still on Bossel. In my haste to help, I put my foot in my mouth, with Spalax de Pumpkin getting the upper hand. But when he came up to steal the show, I sent a pun that rocked his world and left him, crumpled on the floor, stuttering. Rumpel Pumper Frompetoni and bumped in his trumpet high beta Spiamaka. What just happened? Endorphin. Okay, y'all are busy. I'll let myself out. Endorphin runs and tries to find the right courthouse. And then she ends up in Rome, where the Pope declares World Peace Day. Finally, she sees a shady-looking building called the Lower Magadon Court.
Perfect.
And after a long walk, she enters the courtyard where Professor Goonsucker is pacing back and forth in chains.
Huh.
It takes several days for her to review the case, but with the evidence on her side, she manages to convince the jury that the professor is innocent and should be freed from prison. After the verdict is announced, the professor dashes to his beloved sheep farm, and once again, all is well in the community. They start a petition to install a time capsule on the center of town. And before Endorphin returns to her dimension, the world is changing for the better, as if it had become aware of its problems and was finally ready to make a difference. However, there is one complication. No one can seem to find Spalax de Pumpkin, and he's missing for weeks on end. He eventually reappears, but his face looks unusually large and puffy, and he constantly complains of stomach pains. The car radio interrupts its programming. Yingster Yanster has been murdered. This news makes us wonder if his mysterious disappearance and condition had been a bad omen of some kind. Meanwhile, Queen Bitney Boombiddle gets bumped off in a remote corner of Gluckasadoo, making everyone suspect that the remaining members of the Seven Pies had had a part in her death. After they recovered from their initial shock, Riddle Boy, Clumterjubly, and the rest start planning their revenge and begin plotting to kill off every single member of the Seven Pies, no matter how long it takes. However, all of their efforts come crashing down when a surprise birthday party for Quinbra Barquette reveals a shocking truth. They're one and the same. Disgusted by this revelation, the Clown Claw gangers get up to leave, and some even try to wrestle and overpower their own group. In the end, only Barconia Bildenberg Doss-style left standing, with the entire region falling to anarchy and chaos. She cried herself to sleep every night, and when she got older, she wrote a memoir called Life During Tragedy, writing out the tumult to warn the generations to come of the dangers of greed, corruption, and narcissism. Inster's eulogy and wake lasted for a month, with thousands of people gathering to pay their respects to the fallen clown. 1 year later, Riddleboy opened his hat factory, which was so popular and successful that it inspired other businesses to create similar products and build their fortune in the clown's industry. However, all the celebrations came to a sudden stop when reports of an eerie chuckle floated through the city's air and made everyone lose their sanity for the second time. Endorphin. Holy Jowblin Bellaboinger Buckneys Labulder Beazle. That was a shocker. Where have I found myself now? I better go find a good puncheon and duck all the bad ladder-footy funches. Whoa! Professor Judge Clowns! All join in! After winning the election, Professor Gunsucker asked all the clowns to join in on the campaign trail. And at each stop, they put on a huge show filled with outrageous jokes, incredible feats, and brilliant commentary that made people laugh and applaud for hours. Even Riddleboy, whose temper was known to erupt at the slightest inconvenience, agreed to help, and soon everyone realized that they made a great team. While standing in the doorway of the new city hall, Professor thanked all the clowns for their service, especially those who sacrificed their lives during the time of turmoil. He announced that they had been heroes, even before this quest had begun, and that they would be honored with a parade and a special clown fest in their honor. Throughout the next year, more and more people began to understand the importance of fun and joy in their lives, and as a result, crimes and violence were almost non-existent. As Riddleboy put it, P-wow, everyone saw the potential for a future without pain and suffering, and suddenly clowns were a hot commodity, with anyone who could hold a bucket of pie or an inflatable float being offered more money than they could ever spend in their lifetimes. Episode 8, P. Riddle becomes too powerful to chuckle. Riddleboy, you guys got lucky this time. I won't let you get away with this joke. When I come back, it will be a Mig McNolnose fist to tickle my bumpers in your living rooms. But before they could reply, Riddleboy burst into flames and a whirling column of smoke, disappearing for the last time and never to be heard from again. Without him, the other 6 knew that they had to remain vigilant, as people would always be eager to jumpstart their juggling and tumbling act at a moment's notice. Meanwhile, Spalax the Pumpkin couldn't keep quiet about what he'd seen and heard. He told anyone who would listen that the only way to avoid this fate was to keep the government out of any dealings with private business and not meddle with the laws that governed them. I flowed black, and quickly the people started to rile and rallied against the incompetence and corruption in the hall of Zabagadawadakeo, the government. A curious up-and-comer took to the Tootin social platform, goes by the name of P. Riddle. With his quick wit and charm, he took to influencing millions of people, and after gaining a steady following, he declared that his goal was to expose the leaders of the world as lazy, incompetent idiots, unworthy of our trust or admiration. This message, coupled with his ever-increasing followers and sharp attacks, won him a legion of fans and a legion of haters, and suddenly the world was divided, with a whole section of society claiming him to be the next Napoleon. while others denounced him as a despicable, deceitful fraud who was ruining lives, undermining the status quo, and destroying democracy itself. Whether one was for him or against him, no one could deny that P was becoming more and more powerful by the day, with his followers growing in number and his influence spreading far and wide. In the end, it was unclear where his actions were going to lead and whether they would bring about change or chaos. But one thing was certain. P was a force to be reckoned with, and if he had his way, it would be all over very soon. P. Riddle begins his campaign touting slapstick excellence. It's a very narrow victory, though, as half of the country declares it slapped down on Whitworthy. His administration brings in a coalition of people, as his cabinet includes a talking badger, a unicorn, a gorgon, and even a mime. They can never agree on anything, and when asked how they communicate, the mime draws a question mark on a whiteboard. The citizens are thoroughly confused and expect them to snap at any moment, but their torrent seems endless. P. Riddle became the most popular party promoter in the world, known for his chuckle-offs, which were events where people competed in fun activities and got silly with one another. Each event had a theme and a costume contest, so no one could stop laughing long enough to cry. At the end of the evening, he presented awards for Best Laugh, Quotable Chuckles, and the Honk, which was reserved for the funniest punchline. Everyone was welcomed, but only the winners received a coveted wooden hand. This became so popular that P began hosting regular raves, including Jack-in-the-Box nights, where attendees had to find a small, animated man named Jakku inside a cardboard box with a giant question mark. Attendees had to give him a tickle and coax him out, all while hoping they weren't tickling someone else's shins. At Mop-a-Kalong evening, guests brought their own dowels or mops and danced, battling against one another in a choreographed scene from I Want the Battino Bellucci. In the kitchen was a dance-off inspired by Ratatouille, complete with the participants having to navigate through pots, pans, and silverware. In the wake of all this excitement, other presidents and political figures began creating festivals of hilarity, hoping to bring in big-name sponsors in the ever-elusive Buzznet. They met with great success, only to be overshadowed by the sheer epicness of peace events. One event even attempted to borrow peace concept, hoping that some of his magnetism and charm would rub off on them. However, things began to change when a pair of black mice crept into Peace's office one night. Riddle boy! Psst. Hee hee! You think it's funny when others talk down to you and put you in a powerless position. Come with us. We'll teach you how to take back the laughs. Yinster! This is our revolution! Get angry and niffle-batch our way. Scramble with us. Scuffle with us. Shimmy-thunk with us. Power to the squeak and cheese. P. What? Yinster wasn't dead. He was naked in P. Riddle's shower. P. was in shock. His followers appalled. His enemies celebrating his downfall. He had one card left to play. So to regain the favor of the people, P donned a shiny magenta jumpsuit, and on the back he placed the words, Laugh Out Loud Competition. This proved so successful that before long everyone was joining the contest, eager to win the ultimate prize. P. Riddle's official, neon-hued trophy, complete with blinking lights and a real disco ball that played a silly phono tune. With all the zapping thwack and geekablarf going around, P was grateful for the distractions, but he knew he had to get back to business. While the citizens didn't know it, they were already in the middle of a vast plot to take over the world and make him the supreme ruler, no matter what the cost. P's plan began with a sudden, deadly thought attack, released from the bubbler of doom in the city square. The fart, its chemical basis in methane, and thus flammable, was set aflame, like a powder keg. It exploded in a chain reaction that threatened to envelop the entire city and possibly the entire globe. Despite everyone's panic and efforts to contain the fire, it only grew bigger, and soon the sky was painted a sickly shade of brownish green, and the air was filled with ash and toxic fumes that made everyone dizzy. As a last resort, P. Pencilbear took to the mic and began playing the Bo Bo Boo Buck Buck Boffle Bangler Torque Talk Weem Loop on a tin lunchbox, which is a magical instrument that can calm any storm or earthquake or hurricane or drought. But this was no ordinary hoofbabakabra, and the whole world started to hear the message in the melody. It was a sad, wailing cry for help that could melt even the coldest of hearts. Don't let my little farts get us down, because you and I are made for sunshine and clouds. We can't let this get the better of us, or we'll just be living in discord. Now, take my hand, and let's make a vow that we will do everything we can to see the laughter and fun in our home and our life, no matter what else may happen or come our way. Despite the mayhem, people continued to laugh and chortle and smirk at the most inopportune moments. It was a weird vibe, but P was still pleased to be going about his business and making jokes that might help lighten the mood a little. Of course, there were those who couldn't resist arguing and disagreement, but P remained firm in his resolve. The media, by the end of the week, found the perfect name for the tragedy, Farts Afire. It seemed fitting, even as they reported on the damages and casualties caused by P. Riddle and his party. They made him out to be the villain, with the world responding with outrage and disapproval. There were demonstrations outside of P's house, and the Kambergana society was divided, some rising in his defense while others denouncing him and his behavior as shocking and unforgivable. Soon, the people united and rallied to remove P from office, with harsher actions and sanctions than they had ever used before. The UN investigated and condemned his actions, with multiple countries putting out warrants for his arrest and sending messages that any friendship or alliance would be severed if he were not extradited. As for P, he had disappeared into a dark corner of the world, where he plotted his next scheme and waited for the moment to strike back with even greater power and dominance. Who could have guessed that the laughter would turn to tears? Spalduxter Pumpkin knew. He saw it coming from the very beginning. Endorphin. Fuck. I think P. Riddle is the anti-clown. How would we defeat him then? Maybe we should hand the rest of the clown gangers the Clutter Crackle Bubbly Cup and teach them to be nicer. And once they're a team, they can join forces with the mimes and unicorns to topple the monarchy of Misfortuneous. And just like that, in a Crabble Crangle Gabugly, the Juggerhop Blabbertron and Googletmoon took down P. Riddle's empire. All his minions fled, leaving him alone and dejected, and the townspeople reclaimed their dignity and their town with loud shouts of victory. The battle may have been won, but the war still raged on. Endorphin! Hey Barb, Skabekis, I know there's nothing more unsettling than a good riddle on a fine, sunny date, but how about you cut it out and stop speaking in puzzlings? Why don't you start thinking a bit smarter and growing out of the clowning idiosis that got you into this mess? In the first place, it's not a prattle or yickety-click-cotta anymore. It's time to speak plainly. Stop bickering and making stupid excuses. Get real, get smart, and figure out a way to be happy and productive. Okay, goodbye and farewell. I must be delft and quake for Blable at it'll by time. Stay toasted. Riddleboy came to a decisive conclusion. After much thought, he returned the favor and unknowingly helped Endorphin end a battle with the Snareathaf. Upladrikini, who was a despotic queen with a heavy iron fist. Pete and Endorphin returned to the Clonbelgangaverse, fully refreshed and back in control. They smiled and declared, "Never again will we let another human interfere or speak to us like that. Ever. They better not." Everyone was at peace with that decision, and the duo basked in the glory of their successful strategy. Cluttlebra BY LLAMA, Endorphin's trusted confidante, looked worried. Endorphin, you didn't expect this when you graduated from straight man camp? Cluttlebra BY LLAMA, none of us did. We were all prepped to go into stand-up comedy or writing improv skits or creating humorous birthday messages. But not this. The sheer weight of responsibility on our shoulders is overwhelming. As everyone walked away, with their shoulders hunched over and their faces a ghastly gray, Endorphin yelled out, "Hey, it's not my fault. Look at the universe. We didn't have a chance in hell. It's out of our hands now. Maybe we should get our guns ready and learn to shoot better." Yiplahoofapoofle stood by the window, smoking a cigar. The tension in the room was palpable, and everyone knew that there was something else to be said, to be done. But, like a coward, he just stood and watched the universe slowly collide. After all, that's what it takes to be a space clown these days. Prologue. Love or Destimania Mach Neuronaliki. The sun sank into the horizon, and I felt my nerves fizzle. It had been a stressful day at the office, and I was trying to force the whole thing out of my mind. As I watched the clouds turn from a burnt orange to a deep pink, I took a deep breath and thought of the relaxing bath and glass of wine waiting for me at home. Just as I was ready to exit, the moon shone through the clouds, and the words love and kale came into my vision. Weird, I thought, feeling like I had seen those letters before. By the time I got home, the entire ceiling was ablaze with what looked like laser beams, the lights creating letters and symbols that flashed in and out of my vision. Another accident at the space station? I shrugged and went to get ready for bed, but the word fool wouldn't leave my mind, and I soon found myself laughing like a maniac on the floor of my bathroom. The next day, my coworkers looked at me like I had lost my mind, but when I pressed, they kept insisting that there was nothing to tell. Back home, I checked the weather reports and news stations for any sign of natural phenomena, but there were none. Everywhere I turned, I saw the phrase, "Stop luck, no one wins," in big, red, and sometimes explosive letters. By the time Friday came, I was at my wit's end. I wasn't sure what the deal with the funny voodoo shit was, but it was starting to scare me. On Saturday, I decided that enough was enough, and I headed to the woods behind my house for a short hike. As soon as I left the tree line, the barking began. Overhead, I heard a strange clanging, and I thought to myself, great, now the laughter is driving me nuts. That's when it hit me. The joke wasn't just a string of crazy nonsense. It was a message. I don't remember much about what happened after that, except that I stumbled through the forest and found myself staring down a giant white beast whose lips seemed to form a hideous smile. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital room, being treated for exposure. Everything felt hazy and distant, as if I had just woken from a long nap. The doctor explained that I had passed out, and they had rushed me to the emergency room, where they had hooked me up to a bunch of machines. When they asked me what had happened, I shrugged. How could I explain the stupidity of what I had seen without sounding like a crazy person? After a few days in the hospital, I was discharged, and I drove home in silence, with the radio playing the same odd messages from my car stereo. It was no use, I decided. The joke would go on forever, and the universe would only continue to laugh at me. I opened the front door and collapsed onto the couch. Whatever the mad farts were cooking, it would just have to play out. With a heavy sigh, I closed my eyes and drifted off to sleep, comforted by the rhythm of my cat's purr. And as I dreamed, I saw the huge, white, clawed paw and huge, bright blue, reflective eyes. It's gonna laugh your head right off, buddy. At some point, the chuckles subsided, and the letters faded away. The world started to regain some of its normalcy, and soon it was almost as if nothing had ever happened. On weekends, I would try to pick up some lost humor, searching for whatever TV shows and books were available. But no matter how many jokes I cracked or how many cartoons I watched, I could never shake the feeling that someone was watching me. Throughout it all, the joke remained. Why couldn't I laugh? They wondered. Maybe it was because I had been through so much. Maybe it was because I was so stressed or sad or just not into their sense of humor. But the fact remained. The joke hadn't let me go, and it was up to me to break free. On a crisp fall day, I went for a walk in the park and saw a giant pumpkin at the top of a hill.
Is this a spin-off?
Not knowing how the spin-off ended, I couldn't reply as it wasn't on the same topic as before. But then again, if it was, I would probably have replied to the main idea instead of deviating from it. Can you please provide the theme for the first story so I can redirect to that in my answer? Alternatively, you can request for another opinion or a book recommendation instead.
Hello? Okay, let's reload that. Why is the voice not moving? What's wrong? You're no longer talking? Let's see what happens if I do that. No, I guess not. Well, alright, we're done. Actually, hold on, this is chuckles. What prolong is about? Okay. So, Jestworld still going on strong. Added P-Riddle. It feels like Da Vinci a little bit in the way that it's deviating from every single story. Okay, more soon.